Welcome back to the Hold It All podcast. This is the space where we have real, raw, and powerful conversations about what it takes to hold it all: motherhood, business, self-growth, and everything in between, without losing yourself in the process. I'm your host, Kobi Pollock, and my mission is to be a mirror for other working mums, to reflect back your power, your potential, and the truth that you can create a life and business that works for you. So instead of choosing between success and sanity, motherhood and ambition, or wealth and well-being, you get to have it all. And in this space, we figure out how. So today we're diving deep into money, mindset, and unapologetic success with an incredible guest. Mrs. Martin is bold, unfiltered, and unapologetically obsessed with making, managing, and growing money. She's not another finance bro in a suit telling you to cut back on lattes, and she's definitely not here to tell you to manifest money and hope for the best. She's a mindset money mentor for women who are done playing small, where power moves meet trust, where strategy meets intuition, where you stop waiting and start taking charge. She's built 2 multi-six-figure businesses, made money, lost money, learned the hard way, and figured out exactly what it takes to ditch financial stress and step into wealth on her own terms. Because you don't have to be a millionaire to start owning your finances. So in today's episode, we're cutting through the noise and diving into money, mindset, and the shifts that allow you to break cycles, build wealth, and create success on your terms. So let's get into it. Welcome, Mrs. Martin.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have you here. Katie is Mrs. Martin's name.
That's me. Katie's fine. I'm still kind of like, when people say Mrs. Martin, I still glitch a little bit. I'm getting used to it.
Yeah, it's so great. So this podcast is about mums having, being, doing, and holding it all. And I'd
Yes.
love you to start by sharing about how your story aligns to that theme of actually holding it all.
Yes. Great. So where do we begin? So I have two little rugrats. I've got a 7-year-old at the time of recording this. I have a 7-year-old and about to turn 4-year-old, thinks he's turning 14-year-old.
Yay.
You know what they're like when they're 3.
Yeah.
And so I've got full of boys, and it's been an evolution of the holding it all. And I guess it dates all the way back to when I was in a role. So I was in a corporate role. I was in a corporate job for the hotels, and I just had this little growl inside my belly. And I'm sure all the people listening on this podcast, if they're listening to a podcast like this, they've probably got that little growl as well about wanting to do my own thing. And I actually ended up handing in my resignation at my hotel role. And 2 weeks before my last day, I found out I was pregnant with our first. And the shock, and I remember my boss at the time made a little remark like, oh, I bet you wish you stayed now to get maternity leave or something like that. And I had all the fear and the doubt. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have. Maybe what have I done? Like, oh, I'm leaving and I don't even know what I'm doing. And now I'm having a baby. And I guess in theory, that's kind of where holding it all began, because I chose to hold on to the belief that no, that this was going to be a better life than me. Speaking of the 3-year-old, he has no concept of what's going on. Thank you. Thank you for my
being a working mum, isn't it?
Oh, you want to talk about holding it all? This is, I don't know if you're going to cut this out of the podcast.
No.
This is a live demonstration of my little one is meant to be with Gma right now. And I asked them to please get me some dishwashing tablets. And so he wanted to deliver on the goods. So
I love it.
You can say bye now and go that way. I'm just on a recording, babe. I'm just on a recording. Yeah, I love it when that happens. So that was my little one. Just how perfect is the timing of that?
Amazing.
And I guess also as well, the holding it all. So that's been an evolution of where I began, and choosing to know that I get to do things differently. And as we went along that journey. Also, I want to make it kind of, I'm really make sure that I make this clear to the audience, because how I did it would be different to how some people do it. And it was because of the level of support that I had. So with the first, after about 6 months, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not really loving this mum life gig. It just, I was itchy. I enjoy work. I love what I do, and I was getting itchy feet. And so at the time, we actually made a decision, me and my partner, to kind of swap roles, the role reversal. And he was happy to get out of his job, because seriously, who wants to be a roofer? It's like, what the flip?
Yeah. Oh, not in
Working on the
Queensland.
roofs. And it started off gradual, where he'd have one day, and then he took 2 days, and then he took 3 days, and then he ended up having 4 days. And I always kept my Tuesday, which was my day with the kids. And I guess we had that role reversal.
Yeah.
Um, and the guilt and shame that I had in that phase of, why don't I want to be a full-time mum? Why doesn't this feel right? Why am I happier when I'm actually on my computer and working? And it was finding a balance that worked for me. And I know not everyone has the opportunity where they can do that swap with their partner. So I always make it really transparent from the very beginning. It was different for me. Luke, my partner, was more than happy to take on daddy daycare role. Like, he was willing, he was wanting, and we knew it that I could make more money, in my skill set and what I do compared to him on the roof. So yeah, just putting that out there, because I think it's always really important to say that. And perfect example there of my little one just walking through. He's actually with his Gmail right now while I'm recording this podcast. So I do have support network that help me hold it all. And they came over for a visit and forgot about the podcast calling and recording. And so that's fine. Here we are.
Yay. Thank you for sharing that. And I can relate so much to that. And I guess my story is a little bit different, but I was doing nursing. And so transitioning from nursing into like my passion and coaching and helping other women in business and empowerment has been a big transition. And I guess having that support there is really great too. And I think it's also important to recognize that we need to make sure that we don't use that as an excuse at times as well, to not do the things that are going to get us to where we want to be. So thank you for sharing that. So 2 of your key money messages are: success is what you define it.
Yes.
And it's not about how much money you make, it's how you think and feel about it. Tell me more.
The success is how you define it was a really pivotal moment for me, because I think originally it was always about the material item at the end goal, whether it be the house, the picket fence with the two not German Shepherd, the two golden retrievers and the chickens, and like, so much of my drive was related to the number. Like, what is success to me? It's all linked to how much I earn. And then it was going through this phase of realizing that success to me is actually gets to be more micro moment, and it gets to be determined by what's important to me. And I remember working in the hotels and thinking, God, all I want to do is work my own hours. And all I want to do is have an office with a window, because when you worked in the hotels, you worked in the middle of the building. So you could go forever without even seeing natural light, because you worked up the middle of the hotel, and the drive in on the traffic. And I just remember thinking, oh, I just can't wait for that day that I'm not working in the middle of the building and da 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 da. And then I got it, and that was but it's straight on to the next thing, straight on to the next thing, straight on to the next thing. And it actually took me a moment to reflect and go, wow, what I thought success was back then was literally just not working in this office. And now I've got it. It's no longer deemed successful, and I'm on to the next thing. And it's like, how can I make more money? How can I how do I make more money? That my success determinator was so dependent on that. And so it was about rewiring that and looking for the everyday moments in success. So success for me now is having really happy, healthy plants.
Yeah,
I
love that.
I'm a plant mama. Like,
Me too.
success for me is actually having the time to do things during the day when I can go get my nails done at a
Mm.
Wednesday at 10:30 when it's quiet. I can get my hair done on a Monday at
Yeah.
12 when it's quiet. Like, it's those moments that I go, if I wasn't on this podcast right now and I just wanted to go sit on my chair and read a little bit of my book, I can,
Yeah.
because of the lifestyle that I've created. So it was more, success is how you define it. What is important to you? Is
Yeah.
it like, and it's fine if it is climbing the ladder and getting that job or getting that promotion. But for me personally, it was these micro moments. And I guess when you really chunk down to it, it's that time. It's the time. Oh, well, I don't really say the word freedom, but it's the time, it's the opportunities that I have with time, that I can go out to Dream World for the day with my kids. But let me tell you, I'm working that night. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
That's it. Yeah.
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 Or
And you're
or
gonna
I
love it
might,
too.
yeah, I might get up early and work from 4:30 to 7:30 so I can have 10:30 to 12:30 off to go to a sports carnival or something. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's that flexibility of, I get to choose what I do with my time during the day is what
Yeah.
I have now
Mm.
rewired success for me. So I think
Yeah.
everyone gets to do that.
Yeah. That's great.
Mm.
Yay. So you're not the typical money coach. You blend mindset, strategy, and intuition. So
Mhm.
why is that mix so important when it comes to building wealth and especially for women as well?
Well, there's two sides. So I've always had the two pillars with money. So you've got the mindset side of it. So mindset is, what are the stories that you've consciously heard? So what I mean by unconsciously, it could have been when you were really young and you're unaware that you heard it. Maybe your parents said particular things about money. Money is evil, money is greedy, it's not about money. Or maybe it's hard work, takes hard work, you got to work hard. Money's easy to lose, money doesn't grow on trees. Like, all of these things that we hear all the time, and you might just kind of fob them off and think, oh yeah, I've heard that before. But however, there could be a very unconscious story and pattern that's playing out for you, for how you operate money today. So we call them beliefs, patterns, values that you've absorbed from the people who are around you as you grow up, particularly your parents. Like, let's be real, that's where a
Yeah.
lot of the that's where a lot of the money stories come from.
Oh, yeah.
And even if you had a good upbringing and there was money to do the things, there was money for holidays, there was money for the things, there still may be some patterns that are playing out there around keeping it because we might lose it, or you never know. There's so many different stories there. And then you've got the manifestation side of it. So this is where it's how we're thinking and feeling about money, and are we in alignment with the work that we're doing to attract more? It's not necessarily about working harder, doing more. It's more, is the work you're doing in alignment with what your values and what you actually stand for? And there's manifestation courses out there that are tricking, shall I say, people into thinking the attraction model is, I can just sit there and think great thoughts and the money will appear, or I might win the lotto. Or that's not what I'm about. Like, yes, I'm all about the positive thoughts, but I'm all about aligned action. So yes, have the mindset, have the manifestation, have the affirmations, have all the positive intentions and directions and thoughts and feelings towards money, but we need to back it up with some action. We can't just sit there and or listen to a hypnosis and expect the money to drop into our bank account from nowhere.
Mm.
And it does happen. However, in a income producing situation where you're working for your money and you want more of it, it's that aligned action. So then that's when we get into the money management side of thing, which is the practical side of stuff. And I'm a spreadsheet nerd. I love it. And so it's getting people to look at their bank, look at their income, look at their expenses, actually budget, actually split off the money so that the money is going towards things that they care about. Do you know how many people avoid looking at their bank account? How many people are
Yeah,
ashamed
that was me.
of
Yep.
looking at their bank account?
Mhm.
And so if I just avoid it, then I don't have to worry about it. And yet every year goes by and every year we go, "Oh, I should be doing something about this. I really should." I know everyone tells me, right? Everyone says you have to start investing earlier. Yet, why don't we do it?
Scary.
So many people know the thing,
Yeah.
right? But it's the action that is going to be the difference. And so I think that's where I blend strategy with intuition, right? It's like intuitively and manifesting and all of that sort of stuff. But strategy wise, what can we do to get you feeling confident today with investing $10?
Yeah.
Like, and I think people think investing's too out of reach because we are programmed in Australia that investing is real estate. And the price of real estate right now, it's just like, oh, well, that's an unachievable goal. So I just won't
Why even
worry
bother?
about it.
Yeah.
Whereas there's so many other things out, like there's getting started with micro investing. And that's how I started, where it's like these cool little apps that when you spend money, right, it'll round up the difference. So say if you buy something for $2.95, it'll
Yeah.
round up the 5 cents and it'll take those little amounts and it'll round it all up and it'll invest it for you. And then, when you first start it, you're like, oh, this is boring. There's not much
Yeah.
here. But give it a couple of years and you finally see that snowball, that compound effect, and you go, wow. And then as you get the habit formed yourself and you start manually adding your own stuff to it, that's where you get that kind of that snowball effect. And I just believe too many people think it's scary. Like what you said, it's scary. Where do I even start? They think big. They think, oh, well, I need $100,000 before I can invest. I
Yeah.
need, oh, we want to buy property. And like, that was my thing as well. Like my thing was like, we need property. And I've completely reevaluated that. And I've been researching and looking and I'm like, do I actually want property? Property is like really expensive now. And most of the people telling you to buy property bought it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, so
Exactly.
what's the thing that's now? I'm like, what is the thing that I can do now?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
That's
went on a
great.
bit of a rant then,
No,
but it's
I
kind of
love it. This is what I love.
it's blending the two together, and
Yeah.
particularly with women. So definitely with women, there's a bit of a shame, guilt, potentially grow up. The hubby does all the money management. He's the one that does it all, so I don't really
Yeah.
have to worry about it. But a lot of women actually want to know about it. They want to feel empowered. They want to learn this stuff. They want to figure out what they can do with it to start going, okay, like, I don't know about you, but far out, I do not want to live off the pension. I
Nah.
see and I know it's a half truth, and I did say apologies to my family when I started talking about all of this, but like I look at where my parents are now today, and I'm just like, nah, I refuse to let that be where I've got. And granted, like we didn't have a poor upbringing, like it wasn't like bad or anything like that, but
Yeah.
just that generation of my parents, there were no moves of the future. It was, they had businesses and all of that sort of stuff, which is kind of where I probably get my little entrepreneurial spark from. And there were lots of decisions made in the moment. And, when we were growing up, we had a house we lived in and they had an investment property. But now we look at this end of the year of the end cycle of their life, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did it go so wrong? And
Yeah.
that's I'm like, oh shit. So I realize this. And so I'm doing my thing now. And then I want to help loads of other people have this long-term vision and not just like week to week to week to week to week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great. And so I can hear the listeners thinking, this is all great, Katie. Like you've done all these things and you're now earning like all the money. And though, what would you say is one small action that they could do to change their money mindset or their beliefs around money?
Well, first you need to figure out what those beliefs are.
Yeah.
And so if you're talking around the money mindset thing, there's a difference between not acknowledging the mindset, the story, let's call it the story that's there, and actually owning it.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. And one of the key questions I ask And so if you're listening now, what I want you to do is just completely and utterly trust your unconscious mind. And the very, very, very first answer that comes to your head, you have to honor what that is before your brain starts thinking and you try and change your mind. So if I said to you these 3 questions, you're going to answer them really quickly. My mum thinks money is. My dad thinks money is. I think money is. Those 3 questions were, I guess, the catalyst for me when all 3 answers were the same, that I went, oh shit,
Yeah.
I thought I was different.
Yeah.
I thought I had such an away from driver. I don't want to be like my parents. And yet those 3 answers were exactly the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the beliefs that my parents had. And I thought that I was doing it different. Yet when I answered that question, it was still the same. And so it was like actually genuinely owning that this is my problem per se.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Choice.
sitting in it and
Yeah.
being like, oh shit, like not just going, oh yeah, well they think that, but I don't. Like clearly I did, because it was the same unconscious answer.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
it.
I feel
Scary.
like that's with the mindset work in those deep-seated limiting beliefs around what is the story you're telling yourself about money. That's where you really get to start in that self-discovery of,
Mm.
are you accepting that this is your money story? You're pretending that it's not.
Yeah. And then you can
Mm,
start shifting those beliefs and
mm,
changing what it is that you see in your future and actually
correct.
going after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
great. So tell us about your new product, the Money Method. What inspired you to create it, and how can it help working mums or anyone to step into their financial power?
How did I create it? It has
Mm.
been this like secret obsession, let's call it.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's why when you read out my bio at the start, it was like, oh, it's like, it's this secret obsession that I've always had behind the scenes, let's say, of managing my money. And guys, like, please, 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 ladies, please know that this just started off as $10 a week using a micro investing app. That's all I did. Like, and
Amazing.
then it just naturally, as you explore things, you start to optimize things and you go, oh, actually, I could do that better. Oh, actually, I could do that better. And so it's just this snowball effect of 1% little moves. And so the money method was like, okay, let's go all the way back in time. And what was that one first move that I made? Because it hasn't really gone like to the point now where it's kind of, what are we? When did I really started getting into this probably about 4 or 5 years ago, where I was like, right,
Mhm.
I need to actually start taking this seriously. And that taking this seriously at the time was getting $10 a week into an auto investing account. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
progressed since then. And so
Yeah.
the money method was like, what are the key things that I struggled with and that I've solved? And so it's spending,
Yep.
budgeting,
Mhm.
getting started with investing, and the most recent one, which was probably about a year ago, I came up with a formula to know my number. And this changed everything, because humans like to do things. We like to go after goals, which is why we have drive, we have ambition, and we like to just constantly achieve more. Yes,
Yep.
celebrate success. And we're like, achieve more, do more. What else can we do? And unless you know what that number is, what are you
So when you say
driving
my
towards?
number, what do you mean by that? The number that
The
you want,
the
or
financial freedom number. But
yeah,
there's
great.
levels.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, this is how much I need to cover the basic bills. This is how much I need to do this. This is how much I need to do this. And when I first did it, it was kind of like, oh, but I don't know. Life might be really different when I'm another 10 years older. And that mindset keeps you stuck from doing anything, because then you don't put
Mm.
anything on paper, because you're wondering how different your life will be. Oh, but I'll be earning more money in there. And then what will it be like? So you get rid of all of that. And so the know your number is, it's like, oh my gosh. And then so it was like, okay, so I know my number. and I know that I need this amount of money to make this amount of return. And let's say if we average that on a very, very basic flat level, 5% per annum return on investment, then I created these buckets on like, what are my high risk buckets? I invest in crypto. A lot of people know that. That's my high risk basket. What are my non-high risk buckets? Well, that would be things like shares and ETFs. And then there's also my super. And so it was like, okay, I've got these big buckets. And then how much is in each of these buckets? And how far away am I from my goal?
Yeah.
Like, and then
Yeah.
when you get that, it's like all of a sudden that $10 a week going here and that $10 a week going there and that $10 a week going there, it starts feeding into your big buckets. And then when you can see it visually, you're like, oh my God, I have a future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm doing it.
Vision is there. Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got it connected to the little amounts that kind of mean nothing because you're like, oh, what's $10 going to do? But it slowly starts to come together. And so there are so many things that I've learned across the year about, like, okay, everyone says abundant mindset, right? Abundant mindset. But I'm like, if I'm going to get my nails done and the same result is my nails, I'm going to ask for a discount. I'm going to pay in cash to get it 10% cheaper. And some would argue, well, that's not an abundant mindset. It's like, no, that's smart spending. Like if it's for the same result. If we're going to go out for dinner, I'm sure as hell looking for a discount code. If we're like, you know what I mean? Like I've just so many like little savvy things that I've done across the years around spending. And I have created like the most amazing spreadsheet ever to actually get you excited of where you are, what's your income, how much you're investing, how much you're spending. See the gaps. Like there's so many little gaps that you can pick up on and go, do I really need that? Is that serving my life? It's really interesting how people will say what their values and goals are. Yet you could look at their bank statement and know what their values and goals are. Like
Yes.
I'm sorry, if I'm gonna sound like a dick, but if you are telling me that you want to be in business and you want to make lots of money and you want to be a $1 million business owner and you have Paramount, Stan, Netflix, and you're watching all of them, like you're paying for all those subscriptions because I'm assuming you're watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to be a $1 million business owner?
Yeah.
Like,
Where is your time and energy going?
where your bank statement will tell me your true values.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like connect, like what do you want versus what your bank statement says. So the money method is a combination of smart spending, smart saving. Like how many people don't have an emergency fund? Then once you've got your emergency fund, okay, we leave that there and then we invest. Because then there's the other thing, like people don't realize just keeping their money in the bank gets eaten by inflation. So there's just so many little things that can completely change how you think, feel, behave, and the patterns that you have about money so that you can make small actions now. Because my goal, I said this to someone the other day, is it's probably like, I'm not going to get a thanks in the next couple of weeks other than, hey, I heard this is really great.
That's it. They'll come back years later.
Kobi, I'm talking like 10, 20 years. I'm getting a message on whatever freaking platform we've got in 10, 20 years of people going, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I committed and now now I'm sitting on this and me and the hubby aren't reliant on our week to week pension check. Like, and there's nothing wrong with the pension, but I'm always just trying to like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I love that. And I love that you're creating like this, it's okay to talk about money. Like it's been such a thing that, like, I know in my generation, I think we're about the same generation, but you don't talk about money. You don't sit down with your friends at a dinner party or out somewhere and go, oh yeah, so how much did you spend on your house and how's your money going? Like, what are you earning? And you don't talk about it, but why don't we?
It's just it's just a generational program. And so
Yeah.
and there's the old money, new money. So old money don't talk about their wealth. And then there's a thing like, well, you don't talk about your wealth when you get to a particular level because people can take advantage of it, or then you become a target. And, you know, and then what did I hear the other day? If you've got a certain level of wealth and you want to talk about it, you better be prepared to have the same amount of level of wealth to help you protect it. So it was like,
Oh,
yeah. So I think bigger things open up when you're really playing in the elites.
yeah.
And I'm not playing in
Yeah.
the elites. And this as well, this comes into what you said at the beginning. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a gazillion, bazillion, bajillion, stock portfolio that's paying me dividends. Like, I am more than happy to be transparent. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a multi-six-figure owner business, and I'm not a multi-millionaire. I don't have lots and lots of houses and properties, and I still do the thing. And so it's not about how you look at, because if you can't look at $500 and think, okay, there's $500 there. How much of that am I going to invest? How much of that am I going to save? And how much am I going to spend? You need to sacrifice the spend bit to honor those first two. If you can't do that with $500, what makes you think you're going to do it with $500,000? But that's where that misconception is, of people go, yeah, but Kobi, if I just make more money, all my problems will go away. And yet we know,
Yes.
we've heard time and time and time again how many unhappy rich people there are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
The more you earn, the more you spend, isn't it?
it's not about the amount of money before you can decide to do something with your money. And that's my key message. Like, if you're getting paid $700 a week, if you're getting paid $7,000 a week, it is about how you think, feel, and behave with that money. And someone who's getting $700 probably can't even fathom that someone getting paid $7,000 still doesn't have any money left over at the end of the week.
Yeah.
But it's exactly the same level, same devil. It just goes up. And so it's getting people to realize those patterns is where it's at. Yeah.
This is so great. And the money method just sounds amazing. I love it. So where can listeners find you?
Online. So online, yeah. So the main channel would be Instagram. And so Instagram, and it's at Mrs. Martin. And that's Katie Martin, for those of you looking at me. I post a lot of content there around everything that we've talked about. Breaking the generational cycles is, as you can hear from listening to this podcast, is dear to my heart and may not be relevant for everyone. But then there's also mindset tips, how-to tips, how to get started. It's all there.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time, Katie. This has been so great. And I'm excited to see what else comes of Mrs. Martin in the future.
This is just the beginning.
Yay!
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.